Welcome to episode 49 of Crave the Book. In today's episode, Amber and I cover chapters 29 through 32 of Tracy Wolff Covet. And in this episode, we kind of finish things up with the Bloodletter, but we also get some shocking revelations that Grace has yet to figure out. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, guys, we have news today. But first, it's episode 49. Next week will be our 50th episode, and I know that we just did a giveaway, but Amber, do you think we should do another one of our faction hoodie giveays for our 50th
Well, not
episode?
only are we doing episode 50, but I also think we're at 20,000 downloads.
Yeah. Last I checked, we were like right there. And last week's episode did not upload to Spotify and all the podcast apps. I don't know why, because it was in our system. Like I went and I saw that the episode was there, but the file was gone, which doesn't make sense because you can't even post an episode without a file. So it's like they deleted it or something. I don't know. But either way, I did get it fixed. But if you guys ever notice that there isn't an episode posted on all of the, on all of the podcast apps, it will always be on YouTube unless we have decided to take a week off. But tag us in the Crave the Book Podcast tea room. I think that somebody commented on one of the threads I'd already started. I will likely not see that. Tag me directly, just at Starlamore, in our Crave the Book Podcast tea room Facebook group, because usually it just means that something buggy has gone on with our podcast service. But yeah, next week, episode 50, tune in. We'll do another giveaway. And I think we should do this upcoming one through Instagram, Amber, because we did this one on our last one on Facebook. Let's do the next one.
Yeah, we can alternate.
Yeah, because some people don't have Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll plan to host the next one on Instagram. So just keep an eye out for that. We'll give all the rules and everything on our episode in exactly 1 week. So, and our other warning for the episode, Amber, if you want to give that warning.
So the warning is that there may not be just a wolf howl happening in the background. I have a 10-week-old puppy that I collected on Saturday, and she's still not used to being in her crate. So you may hear some weird, chirpy, woofy howls in the background as she protests.
Yeah.
So it was just to let you know that is what that noise is, and I am not torturing a poor child.
So listen.
Although she does believe so. She believes I am.
Well, you're not paying attention to her. Clearly that is torturing.
Yes. She's an absolute madam. Like, I did not believe what they said about girls versus boys. Pixel was just an absolute sop. Like, sweetheart, she is a bossy madam. She is like, no, I'm not doing that, and I'm going to protest. So you may hear about it. Not just in this episode, forevermore.
All right. So if for some reason this is your first episode, you'll also want to listen for a sound that is going to be a lot deeper than puppy sounds, and hopefully, you'll recognize it. But Amber, do you want to let them know what the additional canine sounds that they're going to be hearing?
The additional sound that you need to be listening out for is the alpha howl. Ooh. This happens about midway through the episode, and that is to signify that we are stopping with spoiler-free content. Everything after that noise will be based on Court and the rest of Covet at least. And in the next coming months, we'll also be including Charm. So we don't want to ruin anything. We don't want to ruin anything for anybody, especially people who are like still waiting for their translations, which I did not know. People were still waiting for the Covet translations, which is for the Court translations. So that's crazy.
Yeah,
that people will have access to Charm, and there are some people in the world that still haven't been able to read Court yet because it's not been translated.
That's crazy. Mm-hmm. Well, we will try our best, and the spoilers today are definitely Court, and I think that for the rest of the book, most spoilers will be Court spoilers. So, just leave when you hear the wolf howl. But last we left off, Grace and Hudson had gone to the Bloodletter's cave to try to figure out if there is a way to break the bond between Hudson and Grace. That way they can restore it between Grace and Jaxon. And Hudson was frozen by the Bloodletter for not shutting the hell up. And
he was being a sass pants.
Yeah, he's being extra sassy. And the Bloodletter kind of dropped a bomb on Grace right, when we ended our last episode, which was that how did she say it? Do you remember what the Bloodletter
because of what you really are.
Yeah, she was like, what you really are. And Grace is like, what the hell am I really?
And then she never gets it answered. She's like, you will find out.
You'll see.
It's like, thanks for, I hate those people who are like, I have this secret. And they're like, oh yeah, what are you going to tell me? I'll PM you, hun. And you're like, stop it.
I'll call you later. No, now I'm going to sit and think about it the whole time.
Yeah. And I know for a fact, I didn't even care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in this case.
Yeah, we had it recently where the way that a big news for somebody was so blown out of proportion by how secretive they were trying to deliver the story that the delivery was so lackluster.
Yeah. We're getting married.
Really? Was that it?
Good for you.
Oh no, it wasn't even that. It was like the way that this sounded was like she's pregnant, she's leaving her partner, they're engaged. He got somebody else pregnant, but no, she's got a new job. I was like, that's rubbish.
Good for you. Yeah. We also find out that the Bloodletter has created the bond between Jaxon and Grace because the witches had gone to the Bloodletter, and basically the Bloodletter promised Jaxon to Grace in order to kind of fabricate. It's kind of got creepy vibes there that
it's a little bit arranged marriagey.
Yeah. And the entire time Grace was meant to be with Hudson, but with the bond, apparently when Grace and Jaxon touched, because Grace accepted the bond with Jaxon unknowingly, she was just so fascinated touching his face, that first scene with the chessboard, that the bond snapped into place between them, basically eliminating any way for them to ever be mated to someone else. And then Grace kind of realizes, oh crap, what about Flint? This whole time Flint had kept talking about somebody else that he was in love with. And then she realizes that the reason that Jaxon never had eyes for Flint wasn't because they weren't meant to be together. It was because they were meant to be together, but Jaxon ended up mated to Grace.
Do you know what's really depressing to think about as well is that I was like, oh, well, but Jackson's been alive for way longer than Grace. So how long has this fake bond agreement been in place? Because it kind of sounds as though Grace's mother was pregnant at the time, or was literally about to conceive.
Yeah.
So Jackson's been broody and dark and twisty for a while. And the Bloodletter kind of used that as an excuse for a reason, oh, well, I thought that maybe a mate might cheer him up, like you would a child with a cake or a pet.
Obligating another person to someone else as a way to cheer, here's a teddy bear.
Mm-hmm. But it made me think, and I was like, okay, so how old is Flint?
That's a good question, because they all went to middle school together.
And I was like, as far as I know, I don't think dragons are aging the same way as vampires. Like, Flint doesn't ever talk about how old he is and how many years he's lived.
Same with the witches. But Macy,
So I think
Macy and Grace were together as little kids. She talked about in Crave being like 5.
So I'm thinking that Jaxon met Flint when the bond had literally been in place for however many years before they got to school together. But that's so sad to think that he was there the whole time.
So,
And if the Bloodletter had just waited a few more years to just then suddenly decide that that was her, because I think that was part of her bargain, was that, yes, you can have a gargoyle, but she has to then be mated, which means that then she also made sure that it would be a female gargoyle.
yeah, never even giving Flint a chance.
Yeah. Like, and then that also would mean that Jaxon would never even have discovered whether he was gay or not.
Yeah.
Because his mate wasn't even of the same gender.
Yeah. I
was like, I wonder how many years they missed out. They missed that mark by. Like, if only Flint was born a few years earlier.
I was thinking about it too. Like Jaxon, if we're how old is Jaxon?
I don't know. I keep saying 109, but I think that's Edward.
That's Edward. Actually, Edward isn't 109. They say that in the movies, but he was born during Spanish influenza, so he wouldn't be 109 when the books were written in 2006.
Either way, your history is like 40 years anyway. So.
Yeah, we have a very brief history. But my thought process is, if Jaxon, we'll just say he's 100. You know, I think he's older than that, but we'll just say 100. If Jaxon is 100 and he was raised by the Bloodletter for the, you know, there was an intended purpose of him being mated to Grace. It's almost like
to cheer him up.
Yeah, to cheer him up. He went through a lifetime of loneliness with the goal of being mated to someone else. And then when he got that, he had that little glimmer of happiness, but it only lasted like a couple days before Grace got gargoyled. And then a couple more weeks.
And before that,
Crush.
he went and stomped back to the Bloodletter to get a spell to reverse it. So, can you imagine, like, the Bloodletter putting all of this in place to then find out that Jackson's like, I don't want it anymore. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
It's like a stroppy child. Like, do you want McDonald's? Yes, I want McDonald's. And then you traipse into McDonald's and like, what do you want? I want a Happy Meal. What with? Chicken nuggets. And then you give it to them and they go, I want chicken nuggets.
I think
Have I portrayed parenthood perfectly?
That was beautiful. And the episode title is now Jaxon Doesn't Want Chicken Nuggets.
Chicky Nuggies.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll have to correct it.
I can't correct it.
Okay, well, I'll remember. Chicky Nuggies.
Reply. Chicky Nugs.
Chicky
Nugs. There you
go. So yeah, the thing is, the farther into the books you read, the more messed up the whole thing gets. And honestly, like, you're not supposed to be mad at the Bloodletter. Like, everything is supposed to be justified. But at the same time, it's another one of those cases where if you look a little more carefully, you'll realize that she's even if this had to be, it still wasn't.
It's a bit interfering.
Yeah, it's a little
because she would never have known whether Grace was destined to be Jackson's true mate anyway. So she would have created a fake bond over something that could have been real. And then because would that then also then mean that they would never be able to form the real bond? because there was already one existing. And when you see like that green, black, twisty braid thing compared to Hudson's brilliant blue, sparky, like
Sparkles.
glittery one, you're like, well, what could have Jaxon's bond been like with someone had the fake bond not been created? And that could have been with Grace. But the Bloodletter decided to interfere before she'd even met Grace.
Yeah, she didn't give them a chance. Like
she'd like already decided, okay, Grace, Jaxon needs a girlfriend, so you're going to be his girlfriend. Meanwhile, she is less than a fetus.
Yeah, can you imagine like some new parents with their little itty bitty baby like coming in and or you know, a pregnant mom like coming in, and you're just like, you're going to be mated to my son.
Yep. Who is not my son. He is the prince of vampires. And by the way, this is what he looks like. He'd be like, huh, no.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then the Bloodletter also says like this really sexist comment, like, well, I thought he would need to be protecting you. And I thought that'd be great. And I'm like, yeah, well, actually, Grace wouldn't have needed protecting had you not put the intrinsic need for her to end up in Katmere in the first place and mate her with the prince of the goddamn vampires.
That's true. And none of this, none of, you know, her parents being killed, none of that would have even, that's why Leah killed Grace's parents. So yep. Grace could have just lived on her merry way, continuing to drink the tea, and everything would have been...
Married an accountant called Boris.
Or she could have went back to Gabe, who we heard about once in...
What if Heather was her true soulmate this whole time?
Heather Werecrab.
But she never had a chance because she was fake bonded to some other idiot who didn't know what her value was.
And all those texts from Heather where she was like, are there any cute guys at your school or girls? Just asking. Like, what if Grace was reading that wrong? What if that was Heather actually like testing the water? Like, oh, have you found somebody else yet?
There you go. That's my new theory.
Oh, no. Now I'm even more sad for Heather Werecrab.
She would have never had a chance.
Okay.
Grace doesn't like the clam chowder.
Oh, no. That sounds like an episode title, but it's too gross.
I'll keep coming up with them. Don't worry.
Just keep them rolling. Everybody loved last week's. All right. Next note's yours. Actually, all of the notes are yours, but...
Yeah, guys, great. Starla didn't write a single note.
Because you noted everything of significance you've already noted.
Okay, so there is a bit where Grace is suddenly feeling that like earth-shattering realization of what exactly the Bloodletter is saying, and feeling her heart break a little bit more for Jaxon for never being able to find his mate, but also that he was also standing in the way of Hudson, and that at that point she had been treating Hudson as like a wedge between her and her mate, but actually Jaxon was the one that was the wedge. And she feels her heart break like even more, and she says that she goes over to reach for Hudson because it's the only thing she knows that will bring her comfort. And I was like, finally, she's actually admitting what she wants and what she needs to herself, that she knows what her remedy is. Just like anybody else who has like any kind of form of anxiety, you have a routine, you know what you need to do to make yourself feel better, to bring yourself comfort. And she's already self-aware that Hudson is her medication, is her relief. And that was really nice. But he's not aware of what she's doing. No. And then suddenly wakes up. And instead of being angry at the bloodletter, which she thinks he's going to be, he's just sat there smiling at her. And she's confused and doesn't know why. But it's because she's holding his hand. He wakes up and she's holding his hand. He doesn't know why, and he doesn't care. Aww. He just knows that she is. And I was like, ooh.
And
he's so cute.
And it's so sad because they are meant to be together, but she's still just because she's so darn stubborn about this whole thing. Like, she's still drinking the Jaxon Kool-Aid. She's still like, oh, but he doesn't deserve to hurt. When in reality...
Yeah, but the thing is, she could have come away from that. And he doesn't deserve to hurt, but at the same time...
It's not my responsibility to fix it.
It's not it's not her responsibility at all. But at the same time, no one is exploring the avenue of, okay, so if this was meant to happen, despite the whole breaking the bond thing, and I am definitely meant to be with Hudson, then someone out there must be destined for him. Why don't we go find them? But they don't use that as a solution. They keep going like hammer and tongs for the idea that they need to ruin their perfectly good budding new relationship in favor of saving one that was never meant to happen.
And not to mention, if it was that painful and that like devastating to break the bond between Jaxon and Grace when the bond wasn't even real, how awful would it be to both Grace and Hudson to break that bond? Because with Jaxon and Grace, like, it literally shattered them. Like, something in their psyche was actually like damaged.
I don't understand why they're still going as if it's a great idea, because no matter what, if they did break the bond between them and they did re-mend the bond between Jaxon and Grace, it would never be the same relationship, because she would always be thinking, but what if, because Hudson is my true mate, no matter what I have done, whether I've tried to save this relationship and stuck a huge giant plaster on it that says mating bond, it doesn't mean that we were supposed to be together. We were clearly supposed to be with Hudson, and we're not. And she's going to have to watch Hudson also go through the same motions. Meanwhile, seeing her with his brother, whether he's happy or not that his brother is finally happy, he's still going to lose out.
Yeah.
It's stupid idea.
Have you ever heard the quote, like, getting back with your ex is like trying to put poop back in your butt?
No.
Like, I mean,
it's like, why would you want it?
Right. Like, have you ever tried to go back to an ex? Have you ever tried to date somebody again who you had been broken up with for a period of time?
No.
It's not good. It's not. You think that you can make it go back to the way that it was, but it doesn't.
I've definitely tried to maintain a friendship with people who are my exes, mostly out of convenience of, okay, we're still going to university together, we're still in classes together, we still need to study together, and we've got projects and stuff together. So therefore I am going to try and make an effort on our part to not just be civil, but be a joy to be around. And then, maybe you might want to fight for me. I don't know.
That only works in very specific instances. It works in a situation. Yeah. It works in a situation where both parties out loud and internally agree to each other and themselves that they are better as friends, which seldom happens. In most cases, one person says we're better as friends and the other person agrees, but internally they're saying, if I stick around long enough, I can convince them. I can keep a little bit of this. I can keep a part of it. And it doesn't. It becomes toxic. It does, because one party wants one thing and the other party wants something different, but they're disguising it, but all the feelings are still there, and it seldom works. I've got one ex who I stayed friends with, and my husband and I, stayed friends with him, and him and my husband got really close, and he was a good guy. But all of the others, it's like you gotta break that off, especially if you've got any attachment to them, because otherwise seeing them with somebody else or them seeing you with somebody else, if there's any jealousy at all, it's toxic for all parties, and it's better to just not creep their social media and not keep looking in. And in this,
don't do that.
Yeah. And
unless you want to make yourself feel better, because sometimes there are exes that definitely make you feel better about yourself.
And don't date their don't date their family member, because that means that you got to go to the Vega Christmas party. You got to go to the Vega. I guess they wouldn't have a Vega Thanksgiving because they're in.
Well, it's all right because the parents, the in-laws, they already hate her. So
that's true.
It's not like you broke my son's heart. I don't think they care either way. So.
Yeah, they hate everybody.
Yep.
But yeah. Let's see. Okay,
talking of the circle.
Yeah, you noted this part. And I got into note it. I did add one note on this part. So you go ahead and start.
So the Bloodletter starts talking about the crown as one of the solutions to be able to break the bond. And she said that if with this crown, you would be able to rule the 7 circles. And I was like, wait, 7? I thought there was only 5 factions. And I was like, who else is in it? And then I realized that the answer was on the next page.
Yeah.
And they mentioned mermaids, succubis, and fairies. And I was like, well, that makes 8.
And then I added, what about giants? Are they not a part of the paranormal circle? And then, if we even were to fast forward into this book, we know that there are other creatures as well.
Yep.
In this book.
So, and I'm like, what made the elves, mermaids, and succubi lose their place on the circle? Or is it not governed like that? Is it like an election kind of process? I don't know. And then Hudson says that elves are really nosy. And I'm like, if they're so nosy, where the frick are they?
Yeah, why haven't we encountered any?
There's definitely enough tea within these stories for an elf to be sat there watching, like, so much drama. Like, maybe they watch it like a soap.
Like they're just on the sidelines.
Yeah, just sat there like watching, like, oh my God, I wonder whether Cheryl gets with Shaniqua. This is going to be amazing.
Maybe they'll be in the Remy spinoff.
Maybe. I hope so. If there's a siren in this book, I'm going to be so excited. And I may actually cry with joy. Because if people don't know, the puppy that I have is now called Siren. Like the creepy mermaid, not like Nino, like Scott's mum thinks. She's like, oh, like Nino. And I'm like,
Nino. Wee woo. No. Wee woo.
No, I was like, no, like a creepy mermaid.
Yeah. I'm hoping. I mean, there's just Tracy's built a world that is so big, but is also so small because she's only covered very tiny parts of it, which means that there's so much more that she could do. And that's what I hate, right? Is when, like, for example, the Harry Potter universe. How many spinoffs could there be? Like, there could be so many.
Oh, so many.
There could be so much. And I mean, even Twilight, I was very upset that Stephanie Meyer, like, she created the possibility of lots more. There's more out there, more groups, and then you don't get any more.
Maybe we'll hear about the Denali tribe from just some fan writer.
I turned to fan fiction just for the sake of getting a little bit more of a universe where I want to know more of an area. But Tracy is still writing, which means that if she really wanted to own this world, she could just continue, like, writing within her own universe. Or like with the Forgotten Realms, Forgotten Realms books are written within the Dungeons and Dragons universe, which means that any author can write in the Forgotten Realms as long as they abide by the rules and locations that are already set for the stories. You know what I mean? There is a universal map, and as long as everybody writes appropriately and they follow the rules of, like, all of the different races and character traits and locations, they can write within that world. So it would be really cool to see that get expanded on.
It would be. And I think there's definitely scope for it.
Yeah.
I just hope that it doesn't turn into like a Game of Thrones like epic where it just does not ever end.
Yeah, we don't have to. That's not to say that we have to continue podcasting for the rest of our lives.
Maybe we could name some successes of like, okay, you guys, maybe like someone like Phoenix, Mike. There you go. This is yours now.
This is the podcasting. We love it, guys. We don't know how many of the books we're going to do. We're going to do Charm, and we're probably going to do Cherish.
As much as we can like speak about 45 to an hour long every week about the books, we are just a bit concerned that at some point we might just sit in silence for an hour.
There's nothing to say.
Yeah, we've already said it all.
We've said it all.
So yeah, there's a obviously this whole crown thing happens, and then they leave the Bloodletter because she's like, you have to do this to get the thingy, and then you have to do this to get the key, and then the key needs to unlock this magical kingdom,
and Hudson
then you do
totally
this, and then you have to sing
out.
a song. Yeah. And they all go back home happily, realizing that they have none of the answers, and Grace's stomach like growls in hunger, and Hudson says the line that we have all been saying since the beginning of time is, don't you think it's time to pump some actual nutrition into your body? Because she says, it's okay, I've got cereal.
It's Mike Newton, get your protein in there.
Get the protein in there.
Oh, yeah. You cannot live on granola. There are 3 macronutrients that you need to make sure that your body gets: fats, protein, and carbs. It's not just about caloric intake. You have to get your macros, and then you have to think about your micros, which means all the vitamins. Can you
do a meme and get a meme up on the screen of Mike Newton and to get it to change? It's like, gotta get them macros.
Gotta get the macros in there. I'll try. 36-minute mark. I will make note 36 in our. Okay, I'll try to remember to do that. Okay. Anyway.
So yeah, so Hudson then like runs off, and he says he's going to bring her some food.
He doesn't.
He doesn't. He just leaves.
He just disappears. He pulls her hat over her eyes,
and then just disappears.
And then just runs off.
Yeah, and then she lets herself into her bedroom, and he also says that she needs to take a shower. She's like, why do I smell? He's like, no, but you're shivering, so. Oh, I secretly think that she did smell. Probably. Although, do you think that they're in that kind of relationship where they are actually honest with each other and they do tell each other they smell? Because I'm definitely in one of those relationships where I want my husband to tell me if I smell.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I woke up this morning. Me and my husband were laying in bed, and I like rolled over all cute. And he went, your breath stinks. You have the stinkiest morning breath. I'm like, oh, thanks.
Yeah, I don't want to go outside thinking that I smell amazing and pretend all day that I am much loved by everybody that breezes past
You smell like an onion.
And I'm wafting. Like, I want my husband to go, yo, go put some deodorant on because you stink. So she goes and goes, Joe, actually, I do want a shower because science, apparently her shoulders do ache from the physics of flying. Because at some point we were like discussing, I was like, she seems to be remarkably okay with suddenly flying using muscles she's never used before. And then she's like, oh yeah, I am achy.
That was just our Court of Thorns and Roses logic, which we're not allowed to talk about because is it Andrea and Phoenix are going to be reading A Court of Thorns and Roses?
Yes.
So we can't spoil it for them anymore.
No, they're currently going through Zodiac Academy.
Oh, okay. I'm going to read that next. I know you guys are crazy about those, so I'm going to read those next. But
it's one of those books where there are actually like laugh out loud moments, and you look around realizing that you're like
those are my
reading
favorite.
a book. And you're like, oh God, please don't look at me. I'm laughing.
Yeah, it's August. I reread Twilight in August, but I realize that I've read it so many times that I'm like just flying through them. I'm already like a quarter of the way through New Moon. I don't know why I reread Twilight in August.
I actually think Zodiac would be a good timing to read now because the 8th book comes out in December. And apparently this cliffhanger for book number 7 is worse than the cliffhanger between 6 and 7.
Well, it won't take me that long to read 7 books.
So I've read up until 6, and I'm like waiting for the launch for the 8th book to come out so that I can like blitz through the 7th, go, oh my God, no. And then at least the 8th book is there for ready for me.
Well, then by my timing logic, that means I need to start reading them in October. If I start in October and I pace myself, then okay, cool. I will put that. That is on my agenda. Me and my husband are reading Crescent City together right now. So,
which I need to read.
It's interesting. Imagine Court of Thorns and Roses, but like
with cell phones
and cameras and cars, and it's like kind of cyberpunky.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. But anyway, okay. Yes. This is the moment. This right here. This is why we love Hudson the most. He comes back to Grace's room and he has the cheese of all cheeses. Jaxon went and had someone else make tacos for Grace.
And he didn't even bring her favorite cookies.
No. He's
just the tacos.
Yeah. And Hudson comes in with Dr. Pepper, which we know is Grace's favorite, and cookies, right? Mm-hmm. And he made her grilled cheeses. Like he watched YouTube and figured it out. Like, come on.
Which is adorable. And he like mentions it. He says like, well, I do have a half human mate and she needs to have a sustenance. And I was like, at no point did Jaxon actually think about longevity of their relationship. He's like, okay, yeah, cool. My girlfriend needs to eat. So I'm just going to, oh yeah, she's eating. That's fine. He's not going to go, I can't keep going to get tacos from the same place. I should probably learn a bit more about what my girlfriend likes, but he never did.
He just filled his room with granola bars.
Yeah, which is it's not life-sustaining food.
You have to get that protein in there.
Got to get that macros in there.
Get that macros in there.
And yeah, so they're like chilling in the bedroom.
Oh my God, Amber, that note, I just now saw it. That should have been the episode title.
I'm so annoyed. It's one of those like, come on, kiss already. And they didn't. He reached for the TV remote,
the laptop.
Oh,
he got her.
And I said, oh my God, what a tease! I'm blue beaning here.
Blue beaning, no.
Well, I started writing blue balling, and then I was like, that's not physically possible. Blue beaning.
Oh no, I'm stealing that line. You should. That's a good one. Totally taking that.
And I feel like it is culturally relevant in most places that you would be able to say that, and people go, I understand what that means. I get it.
I love that Hudson just his bliss. I don't know if he's blissfully unaware that.
Oh no, he's not.
Or is he doing it on purpose to torture her?
That's flirting. Not to torture her. I think he wants her to realize that she does actually want it.
But he wants her to be the one to make the move so that he's not interrupting.
Well, I think, according to him, he's already made it very obvious that he loves her.
Well, yeah. Even though she's an idiot. She's just like, oh, he wants to break the bond with me because he doesn't want to be mated to me anymore. Like, Grace. Yeah. Idiot.
Like, well, both of you need to communicate more.
My 10-year-old thinks that Grace is an idiot. Like
she is.
She is.
But isn't most people when they first fall in love? Like most people are idiots.
That's true. That's very, very true.
And even if it's like 40, 50 years down the line and you're falling in love again,
you turn into an idiot again.
You're still an idiot because it's learning how to communicate with somebody that you haven't already had that experience with.
You reset. You have a full factory restart on your brain.
Yeah.
And then like you try to talk. Even if you've dated like somebody and you've got, because I was with a guy for 6 years, was totally comfortable with him. But then when I started dating my husband, I was back to just being an idiot. Like,
yep.
Falling.
And sex is the same. It's always like, yeah, it could be great and you can be free and wild and you don't need to even ask each other questions of like, is this okay? Do you like this? But at the same time, it can equally be clunky with the person that you actually are supposed to be with and that you love, because there's going to be moments where not everything is instinctual.
Yeah.
It's okay to be an idiot sometimes when you're falling in love, because those are the moments where actually they're learning points where you're like, oh, I was an idiot. They actually meant this and I took it as this, which actually then gives you more insight into how you think rather than how they think.
It's also important to, because I know we have a lot of young listeners, it's also important to take a step back and sober up. Like, let yourself be an idiot. But then when you're alone and like you're back at your own house and they're back at their house, like let yourself sober up and run the situations through your head and try to think logically about them, just to make sure that it isn't, I mean, because it really is, we run on instincts, we're animals. Make sure that you are still okay with the decisions that you've made. That way you have a little bit more say in your instincts the next time around. Yeah. And you're not just letting yourself make decisions that you wouldn't normally make, because that's not good either. But sometimes when you're in the moment, you're like, well, I'll make a sacrifice for you, which is where like unplanned pregnancies come from.
Yep. I also find that it's a really good practice to, even if you're embarrassed by what you want to say, save it and send it in a text, because you might not have the confidence to say it out loud, but when you go home and you're still reminiscing about that night and you're still thinking about it and you want to say how much you enjoyed that night, but you might not have said it in that moment when you left, make sure to send that to them, because it proves to them that you're still thinking about it even after you've got home.
Yeah.
And that sometimes means more than when you're about to leave and say, I had a really nice night tonight. And you're like, yeah, me too. It's kind of, that's just passing comments. Like, that is just courtesy. But if it's a few hours later and you've had a date that day and it's like in the evening and you get a text and say, like, I had a really great day today, that makes you go, oh my God, they're still thinking about it. They're still thinking about me. And they took the time to message me about it.
Yeah, yeah. And in few words too, because at the same, especially if it's like a first date, you don't want to like bombard somebody with like 6 paragraphs about why it was so great either, because then they're like, oh God.
Yeah, you also don't want to do that. Like, I had a really great time tonight. Or I didn't if you didn't. It's okay if you didn't. And then start going down that rabbit hole because they didn't reply to you. Because that's what I do. Like, I can change my entire mindset if you didn't like it.
Yeah.
I can hate it too.
In reality, they were like just taking a poop or something. Like, God.
Yeah. It's like there's me thinking with somebody else because they've already bored of me.
All right.
Right, should we move on to the 2 spoilers?
The tuna spoilers?
The tuna.
Did you say tuna spoilers? I heard tuna spoilers.
2 little spoilers.
The tuna spoilers.
The tuna spoilers.
I'm going to note the 47 minute
I can see your little face and it has a little tiny speech bubble.
Our note-taking system.
I don't know why that makes me laugh.
I'm trying to note the times that we start spoiler section.
I see. Okay.
All right. You go right on ahead.
Yeah, there are two little tunas.
2 tunas.
2 tunas. One of which is the Bloodletter clears her throat after talking about the unkillable beast in like a poor little thing.
Yeah, she says that poor creature locked up in the cave, and then she stops and has to like collect herself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God.
It's kind of sad, but at the same time, she's a bitch sometimes, so.
She could just,
okay if she's sad.
Yeah, here's the thing. At this point, she could just tell Grace everything. Oh, yeah, you know that thing that's locked up in the cave? Yeah, that's actually my husband. He's the king of the gargoyles.
To be honest, I don't know why she doesn't.
There's literally no reason why she doesn't.
No, except for a really good novel.
Yeah, it's for the sake of the book.
But yeah, there's literally no reason why she doesn't just, even if it was Hudson was still frozen because she didn't feel confident to tell them. She could have absolutely just gone, okay, here's the deal. And then just says everything. Like, she's even saying, like, oh, but yeah, to be able to free him, you need to find the blacksmith. But I don't know where the blacksmith is.
Yeah.
It's like, does she really not know?
I don't think she does. I think her sister is the only one who knows.
But surely she would say, oh, maybe you can ask my sister.
I think she hates her sister, doesn't she?
Yeah. And then she could also send her granddaughter to this great auntie saying, okay, so you should go and ask my sister. However, do not under any circumstances make a deal with her because she's a conniving little bitch and will make sure she gets her reward. But she doesn't. She just goes, yeah, you can find it out yourself, surely. You're resourceful.
Ugh. She underestimates how incompetent Grace truly is.
She does.
Like, we're all for Grace.
I love how she also said that Finn is the one that's also helping to protect Grace. Finn ain't done shit.
He has literally not done anything. He didn't even tell Grace that the paranormals were real until after she was already nearly killed multiple times.
Yep. And that was only because Macy told her.
That's true. Macy did tell her.
Yeah. I mean, Finn's a failure. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm. Hashtag not Dumbledore. All right.
I mean, maybe this isn't the role that we want for our favorite act.
What, Brendan Fraser? Oh, yeah. He's so sweet. I want Brendan Fraser for Finn, guys. Please keep...
Not Patton Oswalt.
No, poor Patton Oswalt. I feel bad for him too, but he would not be a good Uncle Finn. Brendan Fraser for Finn. He needs it, guys. If you guys haven't Googled what has happened to this poor man over the years, Google it, and then
really sad.
You demand that Universal cast poor freaking Brendan Fraser as Uncle Finn. He needs this, guys. He needs this. He needs to be our Carlisle.
Speaking of casting, I get so amused and also simultaneously annoyed at all of the fan castings for Jaxon and Hudson.
Because they're so old.
They're all so old and they're all so cliche. Like, oh, we should use Damon Salvatore. And I'm like, really? Ian Somerhalder is like 40.
Henry Cavill. I'm like, what?
Yeah. And let's be honest, guys, they're going to use someone completely new that we haven't seen before. Because they want to give somebody a new shot. They're not. If it's a fandom, those people will only ever, like Ian Somerhalder is only ever going to be seen as David Salvatore. Just like, give me another name.
Daniel Radcliffe.
Daniel Radcliffe. He, like, as much as he can act and do any other role, he will only ever be seen as Harry Potter. And I think that they're going to do one of those castings where it is a...
Go ahead.
Just that it's going to be them. Whoever it is only ever going to be Jaxon and Hudson and Grace.
But on the bright side, it means that they will be heartthrobs.
Exciting.
Yeah, new and exciting, but they're guaranteed to be heartthrobs, similar to...
but jailbait for me and Starla.
Similar to Robert Pattinson, and Taylor Lautner. They are for, I mean, if you go to Taylor's I don't follow Robert Pattinson's on Instagram. I don't know if he even has one, but Taylor Lautner.
You should message him saying, hey, I have your coat.
I have your coat. You left your coat. I have your coat. No, Taylor Lautner, though, if you go into his comments, it's just all people like, oh my God, Jacob.
Yeah. Like, he's not Taylor. No. He's Jacob.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
You can't.
He's going to be a new person.
He embraces it, though. I love that. Whereas Robert Pattinson tries to get away from it.
The role.
Yeah, Taylor Lautner still embraces the meme, which is what you should do. If you try to push away from the meme.
Surely you made a fortune from it.
Yeah.
Even if you hated the book and hated the role and thought that it was really cliche, I'm sure that Jamie Dornan doesn't really scoff at the money that 50 Shades made him.
No, and he became a frickin' sex icon, though I haven't seen him in anything else.
He doesn't need it. He's in his basement.
He's in his playroom.
I would be.
In his playroom.
It's like all that stuff I learned.
All that stuff I learned.
You know how, like, you know, when you do like a fight scene in a movie and you're an actor or an actress and they get the martial arts person in to give you schooling, he definitely had some teaching, right?
Yeah. I mean, you know, if you watch 50 Shades, there's all those butt plug tails on the wall behind him. And he never uses those in the books or the movie. So they've got to be used for something.
But maybe he used them in Once Upon a Time as the wolf.
Oh, no. All right. You got one more note.
I do have one more. So I said the setup for the prison is so goddamn convoluted. It's like, well, you got to do this, and you got to do this, and then you got to do this, and then to find the end of the quest, you got to find the key, and then to find the key, you need to find this person, and the person, I don't know where he is.
But then you got to
get locked up. And then you go down
up.
that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
The prison is my favorite place. I know that sounds really depressing, but the prison is genuinely my favorite place because the way that Grace goes in completely, like what we're going into, thinking that she's going to go into like human prison. And they're like basilisks and all sorts there. And she's like, what the hell are these things with sunglasses?
I know. I love. Okay, so first reading through, obviously the Dragon Court scene is my favorite, but the prison, like first read through, there was this dread, but I'm like, oh, they'll get out of it quickly. No, most of the book is spent in that prison.
In the prison.
And like, I think that it's what I love most is the utter despair. And I'm rereading New Moon, and last night I realized that Edward breaking up with Bella didn't hurt me enough. So I put on my headphones and played rain sounds and I just drowned the rest of the world out and reread it because I needed it to hurt that bad. And that's how I feel about the prison. Like when I read those scenes, I want to be isolated so that it can hurt me appropriately.
Yeah.
Do you do that when you read? Do you make sure that like the setting is perfect so that scenes hurt you the right amount?
Not really, because I very, very, very rarely read the same book twice.
Oh.
There are a few books that I obviously do.
Just a few.
But it is very rare that I read the same book twice. And if I do, it's because I can preempt certain scenes and know to put it away for a few days to come back to it. Mm-hmm. So if I know that I really want to read Eragon, for example, I can blitz through Eragon until Inheritance, and then Inheritance, the last few scenes, they break me because it's so annoying that he never ends up with the girl. So annoying. They're like 4 huge fat off books, and he doesn't get any.
You don't have that impulse as somebody with anxiety to go back to the things that comfort you because they're predictable?
No, because they're not predictable, because I've mostly forgotten about all of the scenes that made them up. Movies are the same, where I don't really like watching the same movies again. I'll put it on as background noise if the other person wants it. Like Atlantis seems to be one of these movies that my friends always want to watch, and we'll put it on, and it's one of the greatest movies ever made. Love it. I don't watch it when it's on though.
That's interesting.
And I wouldn't be able to, if you gave me a puzzle piece of all the scenes, I wouldn't be able to put them in the right order.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, it would be a movie that I've watched the most out of all of the movies.
What's interesting about Twilight in particular when it comes to like sequence of events is I have consumed it in 5 different formats: original book, graphic novel, Life and Death, which is the gender swap, the movie, and then Midnight Sun. I have consumed this story in 5 completely different formats. The only thing that I haven't had is the audiobook. So technically there are 3 more formats.
I actually think that you've also had it in the olfactory sense for just breathing in Edward Cullen's coat.
Yeah. I have it. I have.
You inhaled the story.
I have. I've huffed it. On that note. All right, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. Make sure to tune in next week. We're going to do another Crave Faction hoodie giveaway. If you're interested as to what those look like, you can head over to the Crave the Book Podcast Tea Room group on Facebook. Be sure to send a request to join that. Hang out with us in there. Chitty chat and check. You might have to scroll for a while, but there should be a post that shows off all of the different Crave hoodies. I have not yet heard back from Entangled Teen about possibly getting licensed for those hoodies, but I will keep you guys posted if I hear anything.
They're blue beaning us.
They are blue beaning us. Damn it. All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next week for episode 50.
Bye-bye.